Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. When a woman stops reaching out, something powerful happens inside a man's mind. See, men are wired a little differently. When you're always the one checking in, calling, texting, showing care, he starts to take that energy for granted. He thinks she's always going to be there. But the moment you go quiet, the moment you stop chasing, that man starts hearing the silence echo in his head. A man's silence doesn't always mean he's forgotten you. Sometimes it's when he starts realizing your value. You see, when a woman pulls back, when she stops reaching out, something deep begins to stir inside a man. At first, he might not even notice it. He might think it's just another day without your text or your call. He might even convince himself that he's fine without you. But as the hours turn into days and days into weeks, that silence starts to get heavy. It creeps into his thoughts. When he's driving, when he's alone at night, when he picks up his phone out of habit and there's nothing from you, that's when his mind starts to shift from comfort to confusion, from confidence to curiosity. He starts to wonder what happened. Did you lose interest? Did you find someone else? Did you finally realize you deserve better? And that wondering begins to eat at him slowly, piece by piece. Men are not as emotionally expressive as women, but they feel deeply, they just don't always show it right away. When a woman is constantly there, always checking in, always making the effort, a man's mind becomes used to that presence. It becomes his emotional safety net. But when she stops reaching out, when she quietly walks away without explanation or drama, that safety net disappears. And suddenly, he feels the emptiness he never knew existed. He might distract himself with work, friends, or even other people, but nothing feels the same. There's a void, and that void is you. That's when realization hits him. The comfort, the peace, the consistency he felt wasn't his doing, it was yours. When you stop reaching out, he starts to remember the things he never paid attention to. The sound of your voice, the warmth of your care, the way you made him feel seen and appreciated. He replays your conversations in his head, the little jokes, the moments of affection, the times you understood him when no one else did. And that memory starts turning into regret because now he's realizing that your love wasn't just words, it was energy, effort, time, and patience. All those things he took for granted now sit heavy on his conscience. That's when he begins to see your worth, not because you reminded him, but because your absence did. Men often associate silence with peace, but when it comes from a woman who once gave them everything, that silence becomes the loudest sound they've ever heard. It echoes through every part of their mind. It reminds them of every missed opportunity to appreciate, every time they ignored your message, every moment they thought you'd never leave. Now they see you didn't stop caring, you just stopped explaining. You didn't stop loving, you just stopped proving it to someone who couldn't see it. And that realization humbles a man. It makes him question his choices, his pride, and his priorities. So when a man goes silent and you don't reach out, don't think he's forgotten you. No, that's when he's starting to realize your true value. That's when he's learning the hardest lesson, that love taken for granted is love that doesn't return the same way again. Your silence becomes his mirror, showing him what life looks like without your presence. And that reflection is what wakes him up. When you stop reaching out, a man begins to replay every moment and question his actions. See, men don't always understand the depth of what they had until it's gone. When you were there, showing care, texting him good morning, asking how his day went, he might have thought it was just normal. He thought your love was a given, your energy was endless, your patience was forever. But the moment that pattern breaks, when your messages stop coming, when your attention fades away, his mind starts working overtime. He begins to think back on everything that happened between you two. Every word he said, every moment he missed, every time he could have done better but didn't. At first, he tries to brush it off. He tells himself, you're just busy, or maybe you'll text tomorrow. But when tomorrow comes and you still don't reach out, that's when doubt starts whispering in his ear. He replays your last conversation, wondering if he said something wrong. He scrolls through old messages, searching for signs he might have ignored. His mind becomes a movie reel of what ifs and should haves. What if he had treated you better? What if he had listened more? What if he hadn't let his ego get in the way? The man who once acted unbothered now can't escape his own thoughts. Men don't like feeling out of control, but your silence takes that control away. It leaves them uncertain, and uncertainty eats at their confidence. That's when they start to realize how much power your presence carried. You see, when you were reaching out, you made it easy for him not to think. You gave him comfort. But when you stop, he's forced to face the truth that maybe he was the reason things changed, that maybe his actions pushed you away. And now the silence becomes his mirror. He starts seeing the version of himself that didn't appreciate you enough. Every message you ever sent, every time you waited for a reply, every little act of love he overlooked, it all comes back to him in flashes. He begins to understand that your effort wasn't guaranteed, that your heart wasn't replaceable. That realization doesn't come softly. It hits him late at night when he's scrolling through social media, seeing you smile without him. It hits him when his phone lights up and it's not your name. That's when he feels it, the emptiness he created himself. The truth is, when you stop reaching out, he starts reflecting. He might not admit it, he might not show it, but his mind becomes a battlefield of emotions, regret, confusion, pride, and longing. And slowly, that pride that kept him distant begins to crack. Because a man can ignore your messages, but he can't ignore the memory of how you made him feel. When you stop reaching out, he doesn't just lose your attention, he loses the version of himself that felt safe in your love. And that's the moment he realizes he might have been the reason why you stopped reaching out in the first place. Distance makes him feel the emotional gap he never noticed when you were always available. When you were there, showing up with love, checking in, being present, he thought it was normal. He didn't stop to think about what your presence truly meant. He just assumed that no matter what happened, you'd still be there tomorrow. But when you pull back, when you stop texting, when you stop asking how he's doing, that's when the silence becomes real. That's when he starts to feel the distance, not just physically, but emotionally. It's like something that used to feel full suddenly feels empty, and he doesn't know how to fill that space anymore. Men often mistake consistency for permanence. When a woman gives her heart, her time, and her energy, a man starts to believe that love will always flow in the same way. But the moment she steps back, he begins to realize how much of his emotional comfort came from her presence. He feels that gap in moments he didn't expect. When he's driving and a song plays that reminds him of her. When he's eating something she used to cook, or when something good happens and she's not the first person he wants to tell. That emotional emptiness becomes a quiet storm inside his mind. He may act calm on the outside, but on the inside, he's restless. He misses the feeling of being seen, understood, and cared for. At first, he might not even understand what's wrong. He'll think he's just having an off day. But the truth is, that emotional gap keeps growing. Every time he reaches for his phone and stops himself from texting you, that longing deepens. He starts to remember the comfort of your words, the softness of your care, the way you used to listen when no one else did. And soon, that distance becomes unbearable. It's no longer just about missing your presence. It's about realizing that his world feels colder without your warmth. You see, men don't easily recognize emotional support when they have it, but they feel its absence sharply when it's gone. That's when he begins to understand that you weren't just another person in his life. You were the piece he didn't know he needed. The one who made him feel safe enough to be himself. When you stop being available, he starts to feel emotionally lost. That's the power of distance. It shows him how much of his happiness was tied to your energy. He might try to fill that space with distractions, friends, work, even new connections, but nothing feels the same. Because what he misses isn't just you, it's the emotional connection he felt with you. And that's something he can't find easily again. Distance doesn't just make the heart grow fonder. It makes a man realize the depth of what he took for granted. When you were always available, he didn't see the value of your closeness. But when you step back, that space between you becomes the loudest teacher showing him that love, once taken for granted, doesn't wait forever. Your absence becomes louder than your words ever were. When you were there, your presence spoke in ways you didn't even realize. The care in your voice, the consistency in your actions, the effort you gave without being asked. He may not have said it, but he got used to that. He grew comfortable knowing that no matter what happened, you'd reach out, you'd fix things, you'd be the bridge between silence and connection. But when you stop doing that, when you choose to step back and let the silence exist, that absence starts to echo louder than any argument, any text, or any conversation ever could. At first, he doesn't understand it. He thinks it's temporary. He assumes you'll come around like you always do. But as the days go by and you still don't reach out, he starts to feel that quiet in a way that shakes him. It's strange for him because he never noticed how much space your presence took up until it was gone. Your laughter, your check-ins, your warmth, all those little things that seemed ordinary now feel like missing pieces in his daily life. That's the thing about absence. It has a voice of its own, and it speaks in the moments he least expects. Maybe he's sitting with friends, but he's not really present. Maybe he scrolls through old conversations, pretending not to care, but reading every word like it's brand new. Maybe he tries to fill the void with distractions, but nothing hits the same. Because your absence is louder than noise, it reminds him of everything he ignored when he had the chance. It whispers the truth he didn't want to face. That love doesn't beg to be seen. It withdraws when it's taken for granted. Your silence starts to play with his emotions. He begins to wonder if you've moved on, if someone else is hearing your laughter now, if someone else gets to feel the same warmth he once had. That thought alone keeps him awake at night. He replays every mistake, every moment he could have done better, every time he let his ego speak instead of his heart. He begins to realize that what he once thought was power, the power of being chased, of being wanted, was really weakness disguised as pride. Because now, the one who walked away in silence holds all the strength. Your absence forces him to listen not to your words, but to the lesson behind them. It teaches him that your energy wasn't something he was entitled to. It was something you chose to give. And when you stop giving it, the world he built around your presence begins to fall apart. That's when he understands that love doesn't always end with a fight or a final goodbye. Sometimes it ends quietly in the moment when you decide your silence will speak louder than anything else. And that silence, that absence, becomes a reminder he can't escape, echoing louder than your voice ever did, showing him exactly what he lost. Men respect what they lose and chase what they can't easily have. That's the truth most people don't want to admit. When something is always available, it feels ordinary. When someone's love is constant, it becomes expected. But the moment that love becomes distant, when that woman who once gave everything suddenly pulls back, a man's mind wakes up. He starts to see her differently. What he once thought would always be there suddenly feels like something precious, something rare. It's human nature. People only chase what challenges them. And men are no different. When you stop reaching out, when you stop proving your worth, he starts to realize he's not as secure as he thought. At first, he might act like he doesn't care. He might even pretend he's fine. But deep down, there's a shift happening. He starts to question himself. Why isn't she calling? Why isn't she texting? Did she stop caring? That uncertainty triggers something in him. You see, men are driven by the instinct to pursue, to conquer, to win. But when you make yourself too available, there's nothing left to win. When you step back, that instinct reawakens. Suddenly, he feels that challenge again, that curiosity, that desire to regain what he's lost. He begins to look at you not as someone who's always there, but as someone valuable, someone he might not get back if he doesn't act right. When a man loses access to your energy, he starts to respect it. He begins to see that not every woman gives her attention so freely. He realizes that your time, your care, your love, those were privileges, not promises. And when you take those privileges away, it forces him to see you through new eyes. That's when respect is born. Not from words, not from demands, but from distance. He starts to understand that love isn't something he can control, it's something he has to earn. And when he sees that you're not chasing, that you're focused on yourself, that you're not waiting for him, that's when he begins to chase. It's not about manipulation, it's about balance. When you were given everything, he got comfortable. But when you stopped, you reminded him that you were never his possession. You were a choice, and choices can be lost. He starts to feel that loss in small ways, in the quiet moments, in the lack of your voice, in the emptiness where your presence used to be. That's when the respect grows. Because respect often doesn't come when love is easy, it comes when love is missed. A man will always value what he fears losing. And when you stop reaching out, you're showing him something powerful, that your love isn't dependent on his response. It's independent, whole, and self-respecting. And that's what makes him chase. Because men respect boundaries, they respect strength, they respect what they can't easily have. And once they realize they've lost something rare, they'll do everything they can to feel it again. Pulling back your energy teaches him what your presence truly meant. You see, when you were pouring your heart into him, checking in, caring, supporting, loving him through his moods and mistakes, he might not have seen the depth of that effort. He thought it was normal, maybe even is right. But when you stop, when you decide to pull your energy back and redirect it toward yourself, everything changes. Suddenly, the peace he felt from you is gone. The comfort he took for granted disappears. It's not just your presence he misses, it's the feeling of being centered, understood, and loved in a way only you could make him feel. That's when he starts to realize your presence wasn't just company, it was stability, warmth, and light. At first, he might get defensive. He might think you're playing games or that you're just acting distant to get attention. But as time passes, he starts to notice something deeper. The calmness that used to exist when he talked to you isn't there anymore. The motivation he felt when you believed in him starts to fade. Your energy carried power, not loud or demanding power, but quiet strength. The kind that made him feel seen without judgment and loved without condition. When you pull that energy away, it exposes how much of his emotional balance depended on your presence. He starts to feel unsettled, not because you left, but because he's beginning to understand what you truly brought into his life. You weren't just someone to talk to, you were the one who made him feel alive, encouraged, and grounded. Your energy had the ability to calm his chaos and bring direction to his confusion. Now that it's gone, he's forced to face his own emptiness. That's when he begins to appreciate you in silence. When he finally understands that it wasn't the attention you gave that mattered, it was the peace your energy carried. Pulling your energy back isn't punishment, it's self-respect. It's you reminding him that your love isn't a duty, it's a choice, one that should be valued. When you step back, you allow him to experience the difference between having you and missing you. He starts to replay moments not because of nostalgia, but because he's searching for the feeling he lost. He realizes that it wasn't your words that held him together, it was your presence, the soft tone in your voice, the genuine care in your messages, the emotional safety he felt around you. And now that safety is gone, that's the lesson your silence teaches him, that your energy was never ordinary. It was the glue that held things steady, the peace that made chaos bearable, the light that made his world feel a little less heavy. Pulling it back shows him what your love truly meant. It wasn't attention he needed, it was connection. And once that connection is gone, he finally understands that your energy wasn't replaceable, it was rare. It was love in its purest form, and losing that is what makes him finally see your worth.